Greetings of the day. I am Dr. Shweta Bhavari from Pharmacy Institute, Noida Institute of Engineering and Technology, Greater Noida. In this lecture, I am going to cover pathophysiology of sexually transmitted disease, gonorrhea. So, beginning with the sexually transmitted diseases, sexually transmitted disease refer to a number of distinct infections caused by a variety of organisms including bacteria, viruses, protozoa and ectoparasites, which are typically transmitted from one person to another through coitus or sexual contact. Now focusing on the terminology, sexually transmitted diseases. So these are the diseases that transmit basically through sexual intercourse during coitus. That is why this is the principal mode of transmission, the major mode of transmission for spread of these type of infection. And these sexually transmitted diseases can be caused by variety of microorganisms, bacteria, they can be viruses, they can be ectoparasites, so they can be protozoa. So, why they have been named sexually transmitted disease? Because the mode of transmission, the major mode of route of transmission is the sexual contact. These sexually transmitted diseases are also commonly known as venereal diseases after Venus, the Roman goddess of love. Sexual transmission being an important mode of transmission of STDs, certain sexually transmitted diseases like human immunodeficiency virus and hepatitis, these also transmit through non-sexual contact such as through blood products, exposure through the vagina during childbirth or breastfeeding. So they also spread by sharing of blood products during blood transfusion or using sharing the needles for injections. These can also be the source of these infections, but the major mode of transmission is the sexual contact. Common causative pathogens. Now we will discuss the common causative pathogens for these STDs, the sexually transmitted diseases. The most common causative pathogens are bacteria. Bacterial infections, bacterial STDs are basically treatable. The most common bacterial infections are syphilis, gonorrhea, trichomoniasis, chancroid and chlamydia. Causative agents, the bacteria that usually cause sexually transmitted disease include Neisseria gonorrhea, Chlamydia trachomatis, Haemophilus ducreyi, Mycoplasma hominis, Shigella species and Ureaplasma urealyticum. These are the bacteria that usually cause sexually transmitted disease, but these are treatable. Now when we talk about sexually transmitted disease caused by viruses, now they are very persistent, very difficult to treat, and they can also be these sexually transmitted disease, they are very persistent and they have more impact as compared to the bacterial STDs. They are very persistent. The most common viral infections include human immunodeficiency virus, which is an STD, herpes simplex virus, human papilloma virus, hepatitis B virus and hepatitis C virus infection. These common viruses basically spread through sexual route of transmission. The other common causative pathogens include protozoa. The protozoa that cause STDs are Entamoeba histolytica, Giardia lamblia, Trichomonas vaginalis. The ectoparasites that cause STDs, sexually transmitted disease, include Thyrus pubis, Sarcoptes kb. These are the pathogens that cause STDs. Now we are going to talk about the common symptoms witnessed in sexually transmitted diseases, which are basically common to all the types of STDs. The common ones are genital ulcers or sores. These can be seen. Urethral discharge, vaginal discharge, cervical infection, lower abdominal pain, scrotal swelling and pain, rectal or pharyngeal inflammation. Now rectal or pharyngeal inflammation when oral route and rectal roots are involved for are used for sexual intercourse basically. So it will also result in lodging of infection in the rectal area, and due to oral sexual intercourse it will lodge infection into the in the pharynx also. So rectal or pharyngeal inflammation in that scenario, and presence of papules. As I already discussed, the papules are what? They are eruptions of the skin over the mucous membranes. They are basically eruptions, small eruptions. Then coming to pathophysiology of gonorrhea. Gonorrhea is one of the most commonly sexually transmitted diseases. It is caused by Neisseria gonorrhea, an obligate human pathogen. When I use the term obligate human pathogen, these bacteria must infect a host and cannot survive outside of a host. They require, means when I use the term that Neisseria gonorrhea is an obligate human pathogen, here by this I mean that they require human host. They cannot survive outside human body. So then if for survival they need to infect one person from another, they need to spread the infection to survive. They cannot survive as such outside the host body, the human body. And for them the host is only human beings. Okay, the host, there is no other animal or other vector involved, only humans are their host. That is why obligate human pathogen. It most commonly manifests as urethritis in men and cervicitis in women. When I use the term urethritis in men, that means inflammation of the urethra. The infection basically results, the most common symptom that will occur, or the first symptom that will occur, will be the inflammation of the urethra in men and the inflammation of the cervix in the females, in women. The symptoms in females include Neisseria gonorrhea most commonly infects the cervix, as I told, resulting in cervicitis, the inflammation of the cervix. Other symptoms include vaginal discharge, dysuria, which is burning and pain sensations during micturition, or pelvic pain in the pelvic region, labial soft tissue swelling. Labia stands for basically lips. So when we talk about the female genitalia, there is labia majora and labia minora. So there are the lip-like structures in the female genitalia which swell due to this infection by Neisseria gonorrhea. Abscess formation is basically the formation of the boils. When I use the boils, means pus-filled tissues. Pus-filled eruptions are there, they are filled with pus, and there is a lot of pain. If cervicitis goes undetected and untreated, ascending gonococcal infection can result in upper reproductive tract involvement and pelvic inflammatory disease. Now, when we were talking about cervicitis, the infection we were talking was curtailed to the cervix region only, or to the vagina. But when this sexually transmitted disease, when this infection progresses upwards, it ascends upwards, it can again result in upper reproductive tract involvement. Okay, so when we are talking about cervix, when we are talking about vagina, these are a part of reproductive tract in females. So from there, the involvement of the upper reproductive tract can also occur, and pelvic inflammatory disease can occur. Pelvic inflammatory disease is what? Basically, it manifests with there is pelvic pain, there is pain in pelvic region. This can result in infertility and increase the risk of ectopic pregnancy. What is ectopic pregnancy? That is fertilization of the ovum produced by female, the fertilization of the ovum outside the uterus. Now, the major site is fallopian tube, and this is very lethal. This can prove to be fatal. Okay, so ectopic pregnancy, it can gonorrhea, or the infection by Neisseria gonorrhea, can also result in infertility. It can also result in ectopic pregnancy, that is fertilization of the egg not in uterus but outside uterus, anywhere outside the uterus, like in fallopian tube, which can prove to be fatal because the fertilized egg will start growing in that area. This is fatal. That is not the place for the growth of fertilized egg. Then other complications include maternal transmission to children during birth, can also lead to neonatal blindness. Now, because I told you that sexually transmitted disease not only transmit through sexual intercourse. This is the primary route of transmission, of course, but it is not the only route of transmission. It also transmits from a pregnant female to the delivered child. It can also occur during breastfeeding also. So the complication is that there are chances if a infected, a gonorrhea affected female delivers a baby, delivers a child, it can result in infection in the child also, resulting in what? Neonatal blindness, blind by birth. All right, this can occur in children due to this infection. This is a major complication. The symptoms in males, the most common clinical manifestations of gonococcal disease in males include penile purulent discharge. Penile purulent discharge means discharge from the penis. Okay, purulent means it is basically, it is rich in, say, leukocytes. Lot of leukocytes are present in that particular discharge so as to fight the infection. Okay, then dysuria, that is burning and pain sensation while micturition, and testicular discomfort, pain and discomfort in the testis. Male urogenital gonococcal complications include epididymitis. Then when I use the term epididymitis, means inflammation of the epididymis, penile lymphangitis, cord-like swelling under the head of the penis. Basically what happens when this penile lymphangitis is basically that beneath the head of the penis a ring-like structure forms. There is a swelling, a ring-like structure forms. That's what a penile lymphangitis is, cord-like or ring-like swelling under the head of the penis. Penile edema, again swelling in the penis, and post-infectious urethral strictures resulting in obstructed urine outflow. There can be urethral structures. Now, after the infection, there can be a condition where there occurs stricture in urethra. Stricture is means like this. This is stricture. That is a constriction of in the urethra. Now, when the urethra is constricted, where would the urine flow? It won't be able to flow. So there is obstruction of the urine outflow to be eliminated out of the body. This is what it means. Gonorrheal infection of the rectum, either in male or in female, can proceed to manifest with rectal pain, bleeding and discharge. Now, I told you, when there is sexual intercourse to the rectal route, when the rectal route is involved during sexual intercourse, this can lodge infection. This can the Neisseria gonorrhea can lodge infection and result in gonorrhea progression in the rectal region also. So, in the rectal region, what are the symptoms? Both in males as well as in females. It can result in rectal pain, it can result in bleeding and in discharge. The untreated Neisseria gonorrhea infection can also lead to disseminated gonococcal infection, potentially giving rise to infectious arthritis and endocarditis. Now, like other infections, this infection can also enter into the bloodstream. Now, when once it is lodged into the bloodstream, the very important sites where this Neisseria gonorrhea goes to or lodges its next infection is in the joints, resulting in infectious arthritis, that is inflammation of the joints due to infection by Neisseria gonorrhea. And endocarditis means it lodges infection. The Neisseria gonorrhea also lodges infection by travelling through the bloodstream. It goes to the heart and there it lodges infection where? Endocardium, the innermost wall of the heart, resulting in the inflammation of the heart wall, endocardium. These are the basic symptoms and complications associated with gonorrhea. Now, we talk about how this gonorrhea infection occurs in the body and how the disease progresses. Neisseria gonorrhea is an obligate human pathogen. I told that it compulsorily requires human body for survival. With the ability to evade and modulate both the innate and adaptive immune systems to benefit its replication and survival. Now, Neisseria gonorrhea have skills. It has the ability to evade. Evade means escape. It can escape and it can also modulate the host defense. It can escape both the innate and adaptive immune systems in our body. When I talk about innate immune system, I am talking about the first line of defense, like the skin, like the hair in our nostrils, like the complement system, the complement proteins which are released by the liver. These are what? The first line of defense, that is our innate immunity. Then we talk about adaptive immune system in our body. Adaptive immune system is basically what? Based upon the infection, based upon what type of defense is required, which may vary from for bacteria, for virus. The B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes are triggered at that time. That is what is adaptive immune response. Based upon the antigen, the foreign particle that enters inside a body, the immune response is triggered. That is adaptive immune system inside a body. So, Neisseria gonorrhea can escape both the first line of defense, the innate immunity also, and the adaptive immunity inside the human body. It can evade both. So, this is how it replicates and it survives, all right, by evading both. Neisseria gonorrhea expresses many virulence factors to promote survival and replication while remaining minimally invasive and minimally discoverable by immune cells. Now, the virulence factor, the severity with which it can cause infection, Neisseria gonorrhea can cause infection. It has a lot of such kind of factors. All right. This is how these factors help it to replicate and survive inside the body. It remains hidden. It remains minimally discoverable. It remains hidden from the host immune system, both innate and adaptive, as I discussed. The various stages of disease pathogenesis of gonorrhea include transmission, adherence, colonization, invasion, and immune evasion. We will talk about this in a stepwise manner from here. Now, the first step involved in the pathogenesis or the lodging of infection by Neisseria gonorrhea is transmission. So, first step of infection, Neisseria gonorrhea attaches to the sperm. How this infection basically begins? Because Neisseria gonorrhea can attach to the sperm using surface protein, lipo-oligosaccharide, and easily transmitted from men to their partners through ejaculates. Now, because Neisseria gonorrhea has the ability to attach to the sperm, so during any sexual intercourse, whether be it with male or whether be it with the female, any sexual partner, it can transmit to the partner with which the infected person has sexual intercourse. It can transmit through the ejaculate. The ejaculate contains what? The sperms, and sperms are carrying what? Neisseria gonorrhea. This is how the transmission occurs. The infection spreads from infected person to a non-infected person. Adherence, colonization, and evasion that eventually follows. Neisseria gonorrhea is a mucosal colonizer and mainly colonizes the genital mucosa, but it can also colonize the ocular, nasopharyngeal, and anal mucosa. So, when we are talking about adherence, we talk about in the ejaculate attached to the sperm, when Neisseria gonorrhea enters the body through the reproductive tract or through the rectal route or through the oral route, when this enters inside the non-infected person's body, it does what? It immediately colonizes. It adheres to the mucosa and colonizes there. When I use the term colonizes, it starts multiplying there. Okay, and it can colonize not only in the genital mucosa, which is the common route for sexual intercourse, of course. So, it can colonize there, but apart from there, it can also colonize in the ocular. Ocular means the mucosa of the eyes. It can colonize in the nasopharyngeal mucosa also. It can colonize in the mucosa of the anal roots also. The Neisseria gonorrhea infection starts with the adhesion of gonococci to epithelial cells, followed by local cellular invasion. So, Neisseria gonorrhea when lodges an infection by first adhering to the epithelial cells, and then it invades, it results in cellular invasion, it enters inside the cells. Then Neisseria gonorrhea utilize pili, which are hair-like appendages, to initiate adhesion to the epithelial cells. So, it uses the hair-like appendages. Hair-like appendages means limbs or legs. So, pili are basically what? On the surface of the bacteria there are hair-like projections. So, these hair-like projections act as limbs for bacteria. So, in case of Neisseria gonorrhea also, these hair-like appendages, these pili, help the attachment of this bacteria to the epithelial cells, basically in the genital mucosa. The pili cover the bacterial surface. Their ability to lengthen and retract allows the bacteria to attach from a distance and move closer to the epithelial cells, promoting cellular invasion. Now, how they invade the cells? They can, like we can move our limbs, we can expand and contract our limbs. Similarly, they can expand and contract, basically retract their pili also. So, from far they expand their pili to attach to a epithelial surface, and then they retract again, and this is how they move closer to the epithelial cells, and they ultimately result in cellular invasion. They enter inside the cells. After initial adherence, Neisseria gonorrhea replicates and forms microcolonies and possibly biofilms. Now, when they have attached, they have invaded particular cells, they start colonizing there, they start multiplication there, they multiply there, and they also form biofilms. As I told already in my previous lecture also, biofilms are what? These biofilms are basically protective secretions of the microorganisms. They form the protective covering so that host defense, the host immune system cannot attack the microorganisms. This is a protective mechanism. When colonizing the epithelium, Neisseria gonorrhea is capable of invasion and transcytosis. What is transcytosis basically? Now, like we talk about the axonal release of acetylcholine, for example. We talk about that acetylcholine, these neurotransmitters are enclosed in the vesicles, right? And then in order to release into the synaptic cleft, these vesicles fuse with the membrane of the axonal membrane, and then there is exocytotic release. Similarly, this Neisseria gonorrhea infects one cell, colonizes there, multiplies there, and then these new bacteria that are produced, they do what? They by exocytotic release, in the form of vesicles, these are again released out of the cells into the near vicinity to infect more number of cells. That is transcytosis. During these initial stages of infection, Neisseria gonorrhea releases fragments of peptidoglycan, lipo-oligosaccharide and outer membrane vesicles that activate signaling in epithelial cells, macrophages and dendritic cells. Now, what happens after this? Now, when the infection is lodged, the Neisseria gonorrhea starts releasing peptidoglycan, lipo-oligosaccharide, outer membrane vesicles that activate signaling in the epithelial cells. They trigger an immune response. They activate signaling in the macrophages, the dendritic cells. Now, signaling from these cells leads to activation of inflammatory transcription factors and the release of cytokines and chemokines. Now, because there were fragments, now Neisseria gonorrhea, it has triggered an immune response in the host body. The triggering is how? By activation of the macrophages, the dendritic cells that can phagocytose these microorganisms, this bacteria. So, when these are activated, these macrophages, these dendritic cells, they start releasing chemokines, the chemoattractants, the cytokines like interleukin 6, tumor necrosis factor alpha. These type of pro-inflammatory mediators are released. The release of pro-inflammatory cytokines and chemokines creates cytokine and chemokine gradients that recruit large number of polymorphonuclear leukocytes or neutrophils to the site of infection. Now this doesn't stop here. A cascade of immune response is triggered. This began with the lipo-oligosaccharide, peptidoglycan, outer membrane vesicles. These type of antigenic products of this Neisseria gonorrhea, they triggered an immune response. They have activated macrophages and dendritic cells. Now when dendritic cells and macrophages are activated, they are releasing more number of pro-inflammatory mediators. The pro-inflammatory mediators like cytokines and chemokines. These chemokines and cytokines are doing what? They are recruiting, they attract large number of leukocytes to the site of infection. Large number of neutrophils come and gather to the site of infection. Neutrophils interact with and phagocytose Neisseria gonorrhea. Okay, this is what neutrophils do. Their role is to phagocytose. The influx of neutrophils makes up a purulent exudate that then facilitates transmission. Now, because there are a lot of neutrophils in that vicinity, so there is a discharge. I told you about the discharge. There is lot of discharge again. Lot of discharge is created that contains large number of leukocytes, and these leukocytes or these neutrophils are carrying what? They are again carrying microorganisms engulfed inside them. So there in this discharge there are also microorganisms which are not engulfed. So this discharge also carries a lot of microorganisms are eroded out. Okay, there is a discharge. So this discharge can again lodge an infection. Okay, so all these steps are also depicted in this image. All right, the same steps that I narrated are also depicted in this figure. Then immune evasion, how they escape the immune system. Neisseria gonorrhea evades complement mediated killing through two general mechanisms: by binding to and inactivating the complement cascade. Complement cascade means complement proteins that are, these are innate immune, the proteins that are released from liver for our innate immunity. So it inactivates that by presenting itself as a part of the host body, by expressing molecules found in the host on the bacterial surface and binding to the complement regulatory proteins. Basically it acts as the host cell only. It recruits some of the proteins of the host cell and displays on its own body, and this is how it escapes the immune response. It escapes the host immune response. So this is how the infection of gonorrhea occurs in human body and how this disease progresses. These are all the stages covered. This is all about the pathophysiology of gonorrhea. Thank you.